out of that pot has been moved into infrastructure. So that's all I've done. So I think this was the first full year that infrastructure monies have been, documented. I don't know.
Yeah, but it should just stay that's what I was wondering why it went down. If
there was some monies allocated that for whatever projects that that were approved by the board,
right,
the infrastructure rather than publications and advertising. So those monies were deducted.
right. So, but what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we had the wayfinding, we took that out and so on, but that still doesn't account for us being down to 11. So that's what I'm confused by is with some of that spending, we should have more infrastructure money. It shouldn't go down. The whole point of that was that money was set aside. If it was unspent, it was unspent. It shouldn't be part of that.
There's actually 41,000 in the account for it, and then we take 26 off for wayfinding, and that left 15, and we're taking 3 off for 25%. And I think you guys need to think about that, because anytime we dip into any of those accounts, we're taking 25%, so that number gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually it'd be nothing. So we really should go back to allocating a specific dollar amount. That's my suggestion.
You mean for the reserve?
Yeah, exactly. Because eventually, if we spend, right now we say, okay, let's not go below 22,000 for the reserve. But the more money above that we take, that reserve gets smaller based on the formula. So we should just pick a number and say we're not going to go below that number rather than a percent. Because the percent is always going to change if it goes up or down. Right? Does that make sense?
Well,
I think before they said something like a 10%. At that point, 10% on the budget would be, let's say, $35,000. Well, that should be the minimum period rather than a percent of whatever the budget is.
Okay.
Or the balance in the account.
Well, we can choose to do, maybe, for the overall budget, we already have it. So maybe we can separate infrastructure out, and whether we need that kind of reserve for infrastructure or not. And if that gives us more flexibility there, then we can do that, because the rest of the things that we're worried about are come out of the other side of the budget. So maybe on the infrastructure side, we can loosen up a little bit, considering that we have tighter control over how the infrastructure side is being spent.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. All right, it's 2:00. Do we have a quorum?
As of right now, we do not have a quorum.
Who are we missing?
We're missing Georgina, Shauna, and Gabe.
Okay. Give him a couple more minutes here. Chuck just showed up.
We should probably text him to remind him, just in case. Virginia, do you know, did they confirm coming to the meeting?
I'm not sure. That would be Montana.
So when I talked, I didn't get a hold of Gabe when I called, but I did get a hold of Georgina and Shauna, and they said they would make it. I can call them now to remind them.
Gabe did confirm with me. Gabe did confirm with me.
Yeah. Just to go, they just text him to remind him. Just we don't have a quorum, we need one more.
I'll call him right now.
Thank you. I see Kutik is no longer at the ocean or at the Taj Mahal.
Right? I mean, Bill, I mean, it looks like it's pretty flexible on how, if, I guess, considering how they were being, the budgets were being sent in before, I mean, it looks like it's pretty flexible on how we're sending in budgets. Is that correct to assume, or did we get clarification on how detailed we need to be for it to be proper?
Gabe just said he would be logging on momentarily.
You're on mute, Bill.
Sorry. I think it's just strictly up to you. You know, before it looks like you designated certain percentages to certain categories, and as you and I discussed, you know, we on this end are basically putting monies into just 3 areas: infrastructure, publications, and advertising, and contractual, which could actually fall into any of those categories, but we have a separate one for that. So, you know, I think it's just strictly up to the board on how they would like to track what they're putting their money into. I mean, in the end, you know, we do the reports and you approve projects and whatnot, and they fall into certain categories, and that's what gets reported and documented and so forth. And so I think if you just stick with the 3 categories, I think you'd probably be better off, because that's exactly where we're putting all the monies. And then, you know, you make a decision on whether it's creative, or I don't forget what all the categories were, but not being here before, I'm not sure, you know, how you pick and choose projects and where you put them in your decision making. So maybe you can tell me.
Okay. Well, we can start discussing it. I noticed somebody joined on telephone. Is that Woody?
That's me, Georgina.
Hi, Georgina.
Hey, Georgina.
Hello.
That's the quorum.
Okay. So I'm
Alright.
here.
All right. Okay, so I think we have a quorum now. So I'll call the meeting to order. And if I could have a roll call.
Okay. So, Krutik Bhakta,
Present?
Alan Outfield,
Here.
Georgina Ortega Angel,
Here?
Gabriel Garcia, and Shauna Sandoval.
All right, moving on to approval of minutes. And it looks like it's for May 12th and for May 26th. I'm guessing for our June meeting, we'll get it on the next time around, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. As long as we're caught up, then we won't be always behind. If there's not any discussion, I'll entertain approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, roll call.
Georgina Ortega Angel,
Here?
Alan Outfield,
Yes.
and Krutik Bhakta.
Yes,
So we have a first, we have a second. Motion passed.
all right. Approval of agenda.
Mr. Chairman, this is Wid, and I am asking that the EDA presentation be moved up before number 7?
Actually, this isn't open for public input right now. It's strictly for the board.
This is Alan. It's a discussion of the agenda. That makes sense to me. I would so move.
So Mr. Alfeld will have to make the motion.
Yeah, I just did.
All right, go right into the second.
So the rationale here is that has a potentially significant impact on the budget. So we should understand that before we vote on the budget.
Okay, is this motion dying, or do I have a second to move the agenda item there?
One of you two would have to second it or it dies. Georgina or Kudrik.
Okay,
I just need clarification on that, okay? So Whit is asking to move something on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yeah, he can't actually do that. Only a board member can do that.
Right.
So I'm doing that. I do think it's a good idea to discuss potential EDA money before we talk about the budget.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
So then quick question, you want the EDA grant moved up before the agenda?
No, before the budget.
Oh, before the budget, okay. So, Alan Athel
Yes.
and Georgina Ortega Anjan
Yes.
and Kruptik Bhakta.
Okay, so motion passes. And now if we could get, now that's change made, if we could get an approval of agenda motion.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, roll call.
Okay. Georgina Ortega Anjan,
Yes.
Alan Athel,
Yes.
and Kruptik Bhakta.
Yes. All right. Moving forward to finance report. I'm guessing that's Bill.
Okay, so as far as revenues are, or income, we had 220,616 in the bank for publications, advertising, and contract. And infrastructure 41,429.20. And I added in the lodgers tax that are owed. Kruptek was nice enough to send me the expectations from his 3 facilities, and so I put that number in there. And I was told today it's checks in the mail, so to speak. So I added those numbers in there, and we have obviously we've got about 3 or 4, maybe 5 other hotels that have some number of lodgers tax to report, but of course we don't have that yet. We have sent out a letter to all the hotels to start trying to bring it back up to speed, back up to date, and so we should have that probably in the next couple of weeks, I would think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Outside of, sorry, so outside of, for me, is that, outside of, for my 3 hotels, is that a sizable number that we're concerned about collecting, or?
It's probably about 4 or 5 hotels. But I know like for Allen's, they were closed for a couple of months, so the impact is, or the additions are not going to make a big change right now. And some of the others I don't know, so.
Okay, meaning
Yeah.
we don't have the reports, but we have the reports, but not received the.
Yeah, until those come in, yeah. Mhm.
This is Alan, we're current, because we were closed for 10 weeks.
Right, and so that's what I meant, Alan, is that, we're probably not going to get, if anything, just a little bit, maybe at the end here, but that's probably not due till next month anyway, so.
Well, meaning, I mean, will we have to, if that money doesn't come in, meaning will we have to adjust our current?
No, this is actual, except for the numbers I got from you for yours. Everything else is actual. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, that's just considered as a solid PO for me, so that's coming.
Right. And this is all accurate as of June 22nd.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so to be clear, it looks like we have 78, I mean, just not the, I think what I got from you this morning, 78,563 to budget, right?
That's correct. Now, I just want to make a note that, and I put it in the financials I sent out. That's including 20,000 for the visitor center, and then just general, city overhead that gets charged to the accounts for processing credit cards and things like that, of 13,000. But that's not. I put that in as a lump sum, and obviously that's going to come out over the year. So, so that really, that 78 could be a lot higher if we just thought month to month. Okay.
I was curious about that, Bill. What is Lodgers Tax doing with credit card processing fees?
Well, because some of the hotels use their credit cards to process their taxes, and so we are paying the fees on that.
I think it's because the city as a whole is taking payment. So it's not just Lodgers Tax. I believe it's for utilities and anything you want to pay. I guess city-wise, they are allowing.
But that's allocated to each of the departments. So we're not, Lodgers Tax is not paying for utilities, for instance.
Yeah.
It's only paying for the Lodgers Tax payments.
So there should be money. I mean, I guess it's not, it's not going to cover the total fees, but I think there's the per transaction fee that the city's charging, and I don't know if that's being allocated towards Lodgers Tax, if those fees are being collected for the payments on Lodgers Tax. I would imagine they're pretty small, so we're so
I don't. They budgeted 3,500 and they charged us 3273 for this fiscal year.
Bill, Gabriel wants to know if you all can hear him. Gabe, are you there?
is he Broken Ladder? Is that somebody else?
I'm not sure. He just texted me to see if we could hear him, but I can't hear him.
No.
He's on mute.
Ladder.
The phone call is 37.
Gabe? Gabe, are you there?
Maybe he's muted. It's on.
Yeah, you're muted, Gabe.
He needs to unmute himself.
I don't know if we can unmute them ourselves or no.
No.
He has to do it.
I'm gonna text him.
Looks like he's trying to log in again.
Okay, but so do you need any more information on Ecrotech?
I mean, no, I mean, it's fine. I mean, look, that's the money that, I mean, we're being tasked with right now, if it's at hand, and if we, I mean, again, we'll communicate with the board here on how we want to break this up, but, we're just clear that this is the amount, that we have to work with right now, right?
That's correct. I mean, that would probably what I would suggest until we get a feeling for month to month what the lodger's tax is coming in, and then maybe over the next quarter to the end of the calendar year, get a feel for what's happening. Then we could probably project what's going to happen for the next 6 months and what that income looks like, and work off of that as well. That would be my suggestion. You guys, may have a better idea.
I'm sorry, repeat that again, Bill?
I was just saying that, I would start with the 78,000 that we have and look at projects that work with that money for the next 6 months. And then let's see what the income starts to look like. And if it looks pretty consistent, and we have a good feeling about the future being not getting a whole lot worse, we could probably do some budgeting as far as what's our expectations over the next 6 months of income, and then, work on projects that way.
Right.
That makes sense to me, but let's deal with that when we get to the budget.
Okay.
That's a great idea. I like the 6 months because this COVID thing is just going nuts all over the place. And this way it gives us a better way of handling situations without committing ourselves long term if things go to the left rather than the right. I like that idea. Thank you.
And so, just one question on there. So the 63 for New Mexico True Advertising. So when we get the matching, does that come into us, or does that go directly to IBA?
I would think that would match into the whatever advertising we're doing.
Okay.
I believe,
But I'm assuming we need to spend it, right? So we need to have enough to spend the amount to get reimbursed? I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So do we need 120,000 for that 63? Because do we need to spend it first to get reimbursed by the state?
Do you want me to answer that, Mr. Chairman?
This is not open for public input.
Okay, we'll discuss that when we get into the agenda, into the budget then. So why don't we do that? If I don't have any other discussion on that, is there any other discussion on finance report? All right, there's no discussion. We're moving on to public input.
Okay, we had a letter from Michael Perantu, and it basically says Main Street de Las Vegas wholeheartedly supports the idea of a collaborative, all-inclusive city-county regional marketing plan that includes necessary infrastructure improvements like Main Street de Las Vegas wayfinding project. The grant application would include $200,000 in funding to complete Main Street de Las Vegas complete wayfinding project. We look forward to meeting with the Economic Development Administration as well as the 5 northeastern counties, our strategic partners in the grant application that we feel will attract significantly more tourism dollars in future years. Signed, Michael Perantu, Executive Director, Main Street de Las Vegas. And that's all I've gotten.
Okay. And I believe since we moved the agenda item, we're at the EDA grant. That's you, Ed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Lodgers Tax Board. An application to the Economic Development Administration could add $1 million to your fiscal year 2021 lodger tax budget for marketing and tourist-related infrastructure. Las Vegas First is willing to prepare an application if it has strong support from the City of Las Vegas. City support can start here today with the Las Vegas Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. You can recommend that EDA is a fiscal year 2021 priority project and that City Council partner with Las Vegas First to submit an EDA application. You have 4 pending lodger tax requests: mobile app, Riverwalk, film advertising, and E. Romero Museum. You can recommend that City Council fund these pending lodger tax requests as priority projects for fiscal year 2021. Lodger tax, thus encumbered, can serve as 20% match for an EDA grant. 100,000 of lodger tax funding would then leverage 400,000 of EDA funding. You wonder if there is any chance that Las Vegas can get $1 million EDA grant. The federal grant is always iffy, but Las Vegas has more chance if the EDA application is submitted in August, when there is $253 million available and only 100 applications. Much better chance than if application is submitted in October, when there are $9 million still available and 1,000 applications. EDA will give Las Vegas application priority because our town is in the poorest northeast sector of the second poorest state in the country. You wonder if there is enough lodgers tax to fund pending lodger tax requests. There will be a minimum of 123,000 of unused lodgers tax coming forward from the fiscal year ending today. The city can fund all 4 pending requests and still carry a hefty reserve forward into the new fiscal year. You might wonder if the Lodger Tax Advisory Board can have input into what the EDA grant is used for. There are 2 Lodger Tax Advisory Board marketing directives that Las Vegas First follows. 1, use more high-tech internet and digital in Las Vegas marketing, and 2, extend our target market to include Texas and Colorado. As far as specific input into the marketing and infrastructure choices in the EDA application, you can schedule time during your July regular meeting. The draft scope of work can be tweaked before submission in August. The important thing today is to demonstrate Las Vegas Lodger Tax Advisory Board support by 1, recommending that City Council partner in an EDA application, and 2, recommending that City Council fund pending lodger tax request to increase match in the EDA application. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, may I make add a comment to this?
Sure.
Maybe a little bit of clarity. The match is not going to require additional funding from what we're already maybe contemplating with our budget. What it does is it takes those monies and puts them against that 20% match that we would have spent anyway. So that's something that we need to consider. And the only restrictions that by doing this would create is that we may have to delay implementation of any of the projects until the grant is accepted, so that we have the monies in that 20% match. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Whit?
That's exactly right, Bill.
So when would the grant be awarded?
They award 60 days from when the grant is received. It's a rolling grant award. So first in, first out.
Okay. So how quickly can you write the grant? Or is somebody writing the grant?
Would like to submit in August, but that does depend on the city council approving at their July meeting.
Okay.
I've already put in for the resolution with the assumption that if the board did approve it, we get it in the meetings, the first meeting in July, which is in, 2 weeks?
Okay.
Actually, the 8th.
And so can we take the majority?
July 14th is the next meeting.
July 14th, okay. Can we take what we've already encumbered, let's say the 26,000 for wayfinding, hell, everything, Las Vegas First Billboards, website, can we take what we've already encumbered right here and stick it into this?
Absolutely. I am assuming that that's already there for the match. I'm just trying to increase it by another 400,000. You have enough match right now from what you've already done to go for like 500,000 from PDA, maybe 700.
With New Mexico Truth, but can we include that 63,000 for the New Mexico Truth?
Would include 63,000 from lodger tax for NM2, and it would include whatever grant tourism gives us for NM2, which we don't know yet.
Okay. So which brings me to this on how we're spending. So that New Mexico True, and if I recall correctly, I thought we had to spend the money to get reimbursed the money. So is this how is this working in New Mexico True? So you have 63. Do we not have to spend it to get the match?
The way New Mexico True is, they do all the reimbursement. Okay. And the city would make 2 payments, one in August and the second in December. And basically your 63 will be paid to New Mexico True, and they will spend the total, your amount plus their amount on the actual advertising.
Okay, so you're doing the spending on their side, so it's not.
They spend it, they get the discounts, right.
Okay, so they're basically okay, that's how that works. So they're able to use us all together to negotiate better rates.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So is there anything we need to, so if we can stick a good majority of what we've already encumbered, I don't see why we wouldn't. So is there any other discussion? Because we can have a motion to go forward with having them, the city work with WID to get this grant going. I haven't heard a negative as of yet. Is there any, Bill or anyone, is there any downside to what we need to do here?
Just the delay part. And as Wood said, the sooner we get this in, the faster the approval. So we're probably looking, if we go with the 60-day thing, we're looking August, maybe the end of September, Wood?
I think it works out. I think it works out perfect because because of COVID, we're stalled right now anyways. We don't know what the heck's going on in the fall. Considering we're in a hotbed right now. I think that affords us some time.
Yeah.
In prior years, we'd have pending things that we needed to get done right away, but as of now, it seems like our slate's kind of open, and we're preparing for 2021. So we've got some time. So I think we could, if there is a way, we're already struggling as it is. I would say that this makes sense if we're going to get this. Now again, on this grant, how is that paid out with the grant? Is that any different?
The way the grant works is Las Vegas First partners with the city. The city is the fiscal agent for the grant. And yes, the city will probably have to spend money and then get partial reimbursements as the money is spent over, could be 2 years.
Okay, so as we spend it, the grant will reimburse it.
Correct.
Okay.
So, could take it, sounds to me, Bill, Charles, you guys have discussed this. It sounds like you're in favor of this. Is that a fair assessment from the city side?
Yes.
Okay, I could entertain a motion if, there isn't any other discussion or no issues there.
This is Alan, Mr. Chairman. I would move that the Lodgers Tax Board recommend providing a 20% match for EDA in two parts, asking the city council to support the application. Well, I guess you don't need the second part because from Bill's statement, there's already sufficient match there. So that's all. Lodgers Tax Board recommends that the city council support the application for EDA funding as Lodgers tax match.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Second it.
All right, second by Gabriel. Roll call.
So, Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes. Yes.
Gabriel Garcia,
Yes.
and Alan F. Ayfield.
Yes.
All right, motion
I have a
passes.
first and a second, motion passes.
All right, so now that that's set, we could move to prepare and approve budget for new fiscal year. Now, Bill, when's our is our final? Can our final approval be in our July meeting, or you need this done before June 30th?
Yeah, I've already been asked for the budget. So,
Okay.
yeah, so we probably should get it accomplished today if we can.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So, look, I mean, I'll entertain discussion. I mean, what we can do, I mean, I'd like to keep it open considering what we can do with the grant and moving forward. So if there's not a big, problem, I mean, I don't see why. I think if we could keep it in a big enough pocket, we can decide as we go, or we know what's happening here with the grant and so on. We could decide some of these things down the road. I mean, some of my ideas were maybe if we want to, we need to break off a section for events. So at some point, events can reapply. I mean, again, this is for 2021, can reapply, and we could decide. And I mean, those applications based on the budget that we set now after this set. But again, I mean, how open? It seems like it's pretty broad here. So how open? I mean, what are the limitations of this grant? Is there any?
You weren't distributed in your packet draft of the suggested uses.
No.
I don't know how to do a share screen, but there are two things that we wish to apply for in general. One is to up our marketing once the traveling public can travel again, to try and recover from what we're losing right now, bring lodger's tax collection back up. The second is to do tourist-related infrastructure projects now while they can be done. Everything's closed down, so that in the future we have more things to offer the traveling public. So that's pretty broad.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty broad there. Okay.
So, Ted, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Georgina. We'd mentioned something about up the marketing. Would that up the marketing mean digital?
It would be upping whatever marketing we do, but yes, y'all want more digital, so it would give us an opportunity to do more digital.
Well, the reason I say digital is because of the COVID, you do not want paper where people are touching because of the spread. So it would, the digital and any type of internet marketing would be more for our money as we're moving forward. Okay?
That is an excellent point. In general, pretty much marketing is on pause until we're somewhat over the COVID and people are traveling again. And I'm in agreement with you.
Okay, that's what I wanted to, I would like to see that money, or whatever money we get, be used for digital or any of the electronic use versus the print. You know, billboards are fine because nobody's touching them, but you know, they're visible, very visible. But because of the way people are moving now, everything is on a smartphone, or you know, everything is electronic. Period. Just about.
All right. Okay, so what I want to get done, I mean, the only thing I could see that we can add what you already have there, Bill, is to have a breakout for the events when we're ready to go there. So if we can take a portion of the 78 and say, hey, this portion is set aside for event funding. I know there was concerns about local advertising and whatnot, and typically that's what I see when we hand out the individual event monies. A lot of the local advertising is done through there. So maybe we could set aside that specifically, so we'll have a budget for the individual events going forward. And so when we do take in the applications would be distributed whatever monies we have budgeted for that. Let's see, I mean, 20%, I think of the 78 is 15. I mean, I'd like to see at least, if we could set aside 20,000 for events for now, then we know that, we have at least 58,000 for the ongoing projects going forward, of what we want to match and so on. I don't think we have enough in the infrastructure for some of that, so we may have to decide whether we're going to use part of the general bucket there to do some of the infrastructure things that we have on our plate that what we want to do. So the only thing that I'd want to add again is to say, hey, this is the event budget. And that's for the applications that will come at some point for 2021. And that kind of would cover the prioritized projects for new fiscal year for the event side of things, because we'd retake the applications and decide accordingly according to the budget that we would have for event. Is there any other discussion on the budget? They see it, or recommendations of what they'd like to see? All right. Is there any discussion on the idea of having a line item for the events budget for 2021?
So, if I understand this right, basically, I'm setting aside the visitor center and the general overhead, and let's just call the design software and the website. I'll put that all under internal.
Yeah, I'm assuming all those are, then they're already encumbered, right?
Right.
So I'm assuming those we can already put in. So if you want to put that, where you need to, that's fine. I mean, however you'd like to put that in, I'm open to that. I mean, that just seems to be ongoing costs. So
Sure.
I don't have an objection of how you'd like to put that. My only concern, like I said, would be to say that we have a budget for our event funding, and that it's, in that way that here's the pot for event funding. It doesn't get touched for that. And then that means that the rest of the pot we have available throughout the fall here to see if we're going to use it for match, or see what we're going to do with infrastructure items that we have ongoing. So it's easier to do that once we set aside money for the event funding. So, I'm open for a motion to do that, to set aside part of this 78. Now, if people think that there should be less or more, I'm open to that too. But if I can entertain a motion to have that set aside out of the 78, so that's easier to budget going forward. Because until we know again, it's by an application thing. Until we know the status of what's happening with events going forward, I don't think we're going to be able to talk about individual events right now anyways. So I think we just need to make sure to budget that, hey, we have this to give out when the time comes.
Question.
Yes.
On the events, on the funding, the 20,000 that you want to set aside for that, if for whatever reasons in the future, 6 months from now, that money is not used, could it roll over for the next fiscal year?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to get used, because we're really talking about 2020.
Okay, but I'm saying if it isn't used for whatever reasons, because I don't know where this COVID is moving,
Sure.
can that money be rolled over for the next fiscal year in our events category?
Yeah, I wouldn't see why we wouldn't. Again, we would have a new budget for the next year, and if that's what we decide that we want to double it up because we didn't spend it in the prior year, that's what we can decide for next year's budget.
Okay, because that's we have no control of what's going to happen with this COVID, and
No.
that just I just want to make sure that money is not lost or whatever allocated somewhere else, but it can be rolled over for the following fiscal year or when things look a lot clearer.
Right. Well, this will be a way to do it. That's why I'm trying to separate it out of the general pile, is saying, look, this money is being set aside for event funding, and so we can't put it into, once we've taken it out, in my mind, once we've set aside like this, it makes it harder for us to spend it on another.
All right. Okay, I'm good with that then. I just wanted to clarify.
Mr. Chair, was that 15,000 or 20?
Well, 20% is of what 78 is 15 something. I suggested, if that's not enough, 20. But I'm open to any suggestion. I just think it's maybe a general good idea just to, in preparation for it, just to set some of it aside, and then we know what pot we have left for the rest of our items. Okay, so if 20 sounds okay, if I can entertain a motion to add this to the budget, to set aside, to have a line item for event funding in the future, if I can have a motion for that. Or do I need a motion, Bill? Can this just be suggested and amended, or do you want it in a motion?
Well, I think you maybe just set it aside till you decide what we're gonna do about the rest.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like to, add as far as any detail on that. So I think we need to that as line item, and that'll cover, I mean, underneath that category of the event, when we do have the applications in, that's where you'll have, these items, depending on whatever event or whatever is going to be incoming would be underneath that spending.
Mhm. And the rest of, for instance, the items in the, that are already encumbered, wayfinding, are all publications and advertising. So that all gets lumped into one category.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and I'm assuming, so you already have a category for, yeah, you've got it all in there, publications, advertising. Look, a subcategory that we have here, just pertaining to, if you want to make it easier, for infrastructure, considering we're already setting aside money for that, right? So if you want to have that underneath an infrastructure category, and that's fine by me. Finance could go at the end and say if there's any issues with how we're categorizing it, but I don't seem to have a problem with that. So again, we can organize it any number of ways there. For our discussion, for the board's discussion, to me, it's just making sure and organizing how the money is going to be spent. And so however you like to put it is just as long as we have that in the budget that, hey, if we're doing 20K for event funding, this is what our budget is for event funding for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
So we're going to repeat again. Can we get a motion to set that budget for event funding for the next year at 20K?
Yes.
All right. And was that Gabriel?
No, it wasn't me, but I say yes.
Okay. And do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right. Roll call.
Alan Ayfield,
Yes?
Georgina Ortega Unhead,
Yes,
Gabriel Garcia.
Yes.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Motion gets carried.
All right. So that's taken care of. I will entertain any other discussion on what they feel needs to be added to the budget or specifics, or else I'm going to leave it up to Bill on the rest of the detail there. Our next item on the agenda is to prioritize projects. I believe we can do that in our next meeting, because I think we could readdress some of the projects that we have that we've already been presented about, like the fire station and the app and so on, and I believe one more item. So I think we could decide that in the next meeting by having it on having them on the agenda. So I'm not sure. Prioritize now, we could probably discuss it then and see if we're going to go forward to approve it, considering that whatever we approve there seems to be, or has a good chance, I'm hoping, to be matched by this grant. So Was there things you had in mind, Bill, on, as far as prioritizing the projects, or the board on what you feel we need to make specific?
Well, I would think that, first of all, we need to get some of these projects in the approval process, I guess, so we can add to the grant. So, right now, for what, on the financials, we have about, short of the visitor center and the general overhead type stuff, we've got about 120 some thousand plus wayfinding, so about $150,000-$60,000 of stuff that's already in the pipeline. So it's up to you whether you want to, out of that 78,000, do you want to commit, some of these other projects that are been, waiting, so to speak.
Right. I think we could decide that on the per project. I mean, look, we could decide what we want for the. Yeah, so and it seems like they're all infrastructure, and so we'll have to decide. Basically, to try to fund all of those, I think for the total amounts, it'll be taking all of whatever we have set aside for infrastructure and then some into the regular pile. But we can, on the next meeting, we could decide for each one of those, I guess, and maybe give each one a final chance to have a presentation if they want to, and we could have a discussion and improve each one. I believe it's like 4 items, right? I got 3. So I had the firehouse, I had the app and from CPHP, and then we had what were the other 2? Wade, did you say 4 items? Or was it 2?
There's actually about 10 items on there. Some of it's already been duplicated. We got the billboard housing. Some of that stuff could have come off that list since it's already in the approval process.
Yeah.
We got Hermit's Peak, Friends of the Museum, Rough Riders. Of course, we got the Arts Council, which is still hanging out there for the People's Fair, and the Film Festival, which has been reduced some. And I did get notified by Frank Burskins on the app, and they've reduced it down to $7,500. CCHP is going to pay for the license and the setup. So they're down to $7,500 on their ask for the app.
Right. So Friends of the Museum was the firehouse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We had that there, and then we had the app on the film. I mean, we could see whether that's that they could use the event funding that we just set aside. If we need to in the future, we can. But I mean, I think some of these infrastructure things we could get going right away. I'm not sure if those other projects are ready to go. So maybe we could prioritize with the projects that we could execute on right away.
That's correct.
It sounds like the firehouse, they were ready to get going. It sounds like the app is ready to get going. So if we want to prioritize, we should probably have those 2 items on the agenda. The other ones seem closer to events, so I'm not sure. I think as far as there was one project, and I'm not sure if that's going to be within our purview this year for the amount. Was it the Gainas one?
Right.
Yeah.
That was 20,000. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's what we'll have to decide. I'm not sure if that's going to be within our purview this year, or what we can do, maybe more than we can handle, or we might want to sit bid on some of this money in case we need to be more flexible with it. And if it turns out it could be and they can wait for it, then maybe we can award it at a later date. But I think we could get going on the firehouse and the app. I mean, we could have that discussion, and so if we could just have it on the agenda for the next meeting, then we could approve or disapprove for that. And I'm not sure if we necessarily need a breakout in the as an item in the budget. I mean, I'll leave that up to you, Bill. I mean, again, if there's an infrastructure side of it, it would go right underneath, and Firehouse would go right underneath on that. And then I believe this app would be considered, in my mind, infrastructure as well. But I mean, it's being spent maybe not on the exact license, but labor for it. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe ask finance on what the detail level is needed for how that's put correctly.
Well, they're probably pretty much going to go with whatever we give them as for the budget. So, you know, how it all plays out, of course, is going to be could be totally different because there's so much unknown. I mean, it'd be different if we had, you know, $350,000 in the bank and nothing against it yet, you know, and so, but these times are a little bit different, I think. So, you know, what I'll do is I will take all the stuff that we've got encumbered and figure out what the budget's going to be with those expenditures and the infrastructure and the events, and divide it up that way, and the internal, and I will send that out so everybody can kind of look at it and then just give me a yay or nay on that. And
right. I mean,
submit.
I'm assuming, you know, the already encumbered items are set. So I mean, I don't have any objections to. I mean, I can leave it open to you on how you'd like to group the already spent money.
Mhm.
If it's in a general section, fine. It doesn't bother me much. It just needs to look for any future board or even ourselves next year. It just needs to look legible and in some way. So if you like to continue building on that, Attorney, and I mean, I don't seem to have. It's not going to change any of the individual things that are here.
No.
But the way they're grouped, I don't have an issue with it. Like I said, one of my only concerns is what we set aside money for. So we did that with the events. Now, as far as these two projects, I know these two. I'd like to see them on the next agenda. I don't know if any of the other board members would like to see any of the other items there. They could feel free to discuss it now. All right. So yeah, let's put those two on the make sure those are on the agenda for approval or disapproval for next meeting. All right. If there is not any more discussion on prioritizing, we can move on to Gainas Riverwalk Infrastructure final report.
Chuck, you may want to jump in here. We basically stuck that in the package, so you all could read what Hermit's Peak did with their monies.
Yeah, it was just a basic report, and it was just for the board to read at their own leisure. It's just a basic report of what they've done thus far. It is their final report.
Okay, I imagine everyone was able to reach out to that in the packet, so if there's not any discussion on that, we can move forward there. All right.
The next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, July 14th.
Okay. And then, sorry, Bill, I think, let me rewind. I think you needed an official motion to approve, the budget as we see it right now. Is that, I'm assuming
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay. So let me do that before we get out of this agenda. Can I have a motion to approve I'm going to say, what's the best way to say
The
it?
budget as set by the board.
I'm sorry, Chuck?
You would need to make a motion to set the budget as approved by the board.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the budget as assumed by someone?
I motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Roll call?
Alan Mayfield,
Yes,
Regina Ortega Angel,
Yes,
Gabriel Garcia.
Yes.
We got a first and a second. Motion carries.
All right, Bill. So there you go. You've got an approved budget by us. Like I said, my concerns were addressed. You can group some of those already encumbered items as you see fit. I don't have an issue with the way I think the board's taking care of the general picture of what we'd like to see for the budget.
Okay. Got it.
All right. New and other business. The EDA grant was already covered. We already covered the next meeting date. And is there any other business? I know Alan did. You wanted to have a discussion on professional services, right?
that's correct, Richard. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I am concerned that we don't have a professional services contract. Virginia has been doing much of that work admirably for quite some time, but I strongly believe we need a professional services contract, and this is an ideal opportunity to work with Highlands Media Arts. But it's a question of how much money we can allocate to that project, and I understand as Georgina and others have said, we just don't know what our budget's going to look like, and we're anticipating certainly another at least rocky 6 months of lodger's tax.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the best way to proceed.
Well, what we could do, I mean, I'd like to discuss it and then execute when we're ready to go. And so we're not in a rush. So let's put that on the agenda for next meeting. I want to have a discussion to flesh out what that means and what we want to entail. And then within that time, or if it's for the next meeting, maybe we could even have a presentation by someone from Highlands and so on, or what we need to do and what we can do or what that project would look like. And then we could put a price tag on it and see if we can. So I think we should, I think you're right that we need to talk about it. So I think we should get the ball rolling. So let's have that as a discussion item for the next meeting so we can get that going.
And Mr. Chair, I agree. The city has been talking about this, and I've talked to Keith Tucker at the university about this as far as coming up with I think a more city oriented approach to marketing ourselves and how we do that, and such as what Alan mentioned, and talking to Highlands and getting them involved and use their student brain power and talent and our talent here at the city and in the community in general to get a some people together and discuss taking Las Vegas forward. And what do we call it and how we do it. And so I think that's something where Lodgers Tax could step in if we can come up with some ideas on how we're going to fund it.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm going to leave that to Wid. I know Wid's going to find a way to fund whatever we try to do there, right? We're going to have a match for that, right, Wid?
For me to get the EDA, y'all have to put the match up. So,
Yeah,
we're making progress. And yes, I hear you that you want to see that in the possible EDA. Okay.
okay.
Hey, Wade, we've already done our part. We put up the match. Now you have to get the grant.
All right. Okay, so yeah, let's have another thing. We'll have that discussion so we can get that going and explore any of those avenues. If anybody wants to come in to the meeting and talk about some possibilities, if Keith wants to come in and talk about it so we can have an idea of what we could explore with Highlands, and I think we should at least explore that shot of what we can do there. And then when we know what we're wanting to do and we have some framework for a project, we could figure out what it's going to cost and how we can fund it. But we got to get it going now. Yep, we've got some time now with what's going on, but we could use it to plan this out, to flesh this out, and hopefully it's something we can grow when we have more funding going forward.
If you like, I'll invite Keith and Angela Marone to maybe come talk to us on the 14th. Would you like that?
Sure. Excellent. And yeah, I've had discussions with them before, and yeah, I think we would like to hear from them. I'm also excited. I mean, there's some thoughts of having a hospitality program at Highlands, or hospitality tourism program at Highlands. So that's intriguing as well. So
Well,
yes,
let's not forget Luna Community College, all right? So
Sure.
we do not want brain drain, and that's what's happening with all of our children that are being educated in the university and the community college, leaving because there's no jobs here with those skills that they have. So we need to include all of those, not just Highlands, but Luna, and bring these people to the table, on top of this Mr. Keith Tucker, because we want to keep the brains here. We don't want them to leave. So if we give them the opportunity and let them know that we're doing something grassroots here, I think you have a better chance of growing something that will be sustainable.
yeah, we can't forget about Luna as well. So yeah, we would be open to Luna making a presentation as well. So this wouldn't be, I don't think it would work with anything being exclusive. So anything that could, bring forth a cohesive plan and an effort going forward. Maybe they can partner. But I mean, right now, again, it's something that we can explore so we can get to a solid entity there, because that's what's been lacking for us for quite some time, is having a year to year solid marketing entity.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there any new or other business anyone would like to discuss? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. Have a second. Roll call.
Quick question. Alan's gonna second it?
Yes.
Okay. So Gabriel Garcia,
Yes.
Georgina Ortega Unhand,
Yes.
and Alan Ayfield.
Yes.
Okay, we have a first and second. Meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you in a couple weeks. All right, bye-bye.